Hi everyone, I'm Ellie from Ellie's Exotics, and this is part 2 of going through all of my old bioactive enclosures that I've set up. They are around 4 or 5 months old now, so I wanted to do an overview of them and show you how I initially set them up and also if anything has changed. So today we're going to be talking about my ball python or royal python enclosure. Now unfortunately Miso is no longer with us. She did pass away a couple months ago and she had been battling, health problems since the day I got her. She had chronic respiratory infections, and my goal was to just give her the best life possible until she inevitably passed away. So I had an amazing year with her, and I also set up this beautiful enclosure for her, and I'm very proud of how this enclosure looks. I'm still keeping it as a functioning bioactive, even though there's nothing in there right now, but I thought I'd walk you through it anyway, because there might be some people out here who are trying to set up a ball python enclosure / royal python enclosure themselves, and they're wanting to do it in a bioactive way. So let me do a full rundown on how I set up Miso's enclosure. So the enclosure itself is 4 foot long, 2 foot deep, and almost 3 foot tall. I believe it's just under 3 foot tall because I got the measurements wrong when I ordered the enclosure. So it is almost 3 foot tall. It also has a custom background. Now, like I said in my Woma Python video, my animals' enclosures were going back to the company that I worked for at the time, so I had to basically rush to get all of these enclosures done so that they had somewhere to live. So the background, is it the best? No. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I think it's effective and it worked for Miso and Miso's needs. For the background, I used the expanding foam and cocoa fiber method. So I just put pieces of wood in, used expanding foam, and then sprinkled cocoa fiber on the top. I did have to go in with silicone afterwards and just stick on any bald patches, and it is looking pretty bald now, but it works, and from a distance it looks effective. I created lots of different ledges and also branches within the background so that Miso had different climbing opportunities, because royal pythons will climb, especially your male royal pythons. Your males are more likely to go up into the trees and hunt for birds in the wild, so that's why I like to provide a bit more height for my royals. Miso was a female, but she loved to climb before she passed away, and she was always sat on her little ledge basking under her bulb. Now, moving on from the background, let's talk a little bit about the substrate and what's going on there. So Miso has a drainage layer. What this means is she has leca balls on the bottom, and then I put a piece of hydro fleece over the top of those leca balls. I believe it didn't really fit properly when I put it in, but it's fine. I've not had many issues since doing it. And then on top of that, you're going to add your 4 inches of substrate. So it's important with bioactive enclosures that at a minimum you have 4 inches of substrate, not just for the plants, but because your soil over time will compress. So within the first 6 months of a bioactive enclosure, you can lose up to 1 inch to 2 inches of substrate just because of how much it compresses. And at that point, it can also become quite hydrophobic. So if it does compress down to 2 inches, just add in some more topsoil, stir up that substrate so that the plants can still get the nutrients and the water that they need. For the plants themselves, I always say this, I'm not a plant person, I'm not great with plants, but the plants that she has have been doing pretty well. So she has a monstera, she also has a pothos, she's got a parlor palm, and any other plants that I added that I can't remember the names of, I will put on the screen here. And all of the plants have been doing pretty well. The parlor palm has always looked a bit iffy because I got it for like 50p from B&Q, and it was on the clearance section because it had started to wilt a little bit, but the other plants look pretty good. The monstera did end up getting a little bit burnt when Miso was in it because it was growing too close to the bulb. It was facing towards the heat bulb and just kept burning itself, like just move away from the bulb then. You don't have to grow towards it. But yeah, those are the plants that she has. She also has some Spanish moss as well that I've hung down from the back, and that is doing pretty good too. So Miso also has some custom hides inside of her enclosure, and these custom hides, you know, I've got videos about them on TikTok. If you want to see the full breakdown, go over to TikTok and check out those videos. But they're basically just a black hide with expanding foam, silicone and cocoa fiber. That's pretty much it, and I think they look pretty effective. I think they look pretty good. She has 3 hides. She's got her humid hide, her cool hide, and also her warm hide as well, and she really seems to like these types of hides. They are just the easy clean hides that I've like decorated, so I do recommend using them for royal pythons. I know that they don't look very exciting, but because of how dark they are, royals love them. They love to feel secure, and it will help with eating if they feel secure. So if you've got any open hides or hides with large entrances, then switch them out to something like the easy clean hide, and you might end up with a snake that feels a little bit safer within their enclosure. So I also added in some leaf litter as well. The leaf litter is basically just food for the isopods and the springtails, which we'll get into in a minute, and it also helps keep humidity within the soil. Those leaves will make almost like a blanket over the top of that substrate so that water doesn't immediately just dry up and evaporate. So as for the isopods and the springtails themselves, like I said in the last video, I have a colony of isopods living in my snail enclosure, and I don't know what I've done. I just threw some in. Somebody gave me like a box of isopods. I threw them in and they have all hybridized with each other, and I have made literally like bulletproof isopods. I don't know what they are or what they've turned into, but these little isopods are the best isopods I've had. They are brilliant. They can survive in literally any of my bioactive enclosures, even with different temperature and humidity differences. They do great. And I just added in some tropical springtails as well into Miso's enclosure, and she also has some Dendrobana earthworms in there, which are the small earthworms. I have them in my gargoyle enclosure too, and they are brilliant. They are great for aerating the soil. They stop the soil from becoming so hydrophobic, and also for honey, they are a little snack every now and then. Now, as for lighting, Miso has 2 different types of heat bulbs. She has a ceramic heat emitter, and she also has a basking bulb. The ceramic heat emitter was for nighttime because the temperatures would drop too low for her, which can make her illnesses worse. And then she has a basking bulb for the daytime. I believe the basking bulb that she has is the Intense Basking Bulb by Exoterra. For UVB, she has a 7% Shade Dweller unit, and that worked great for her. Her color differences, since she had access to UVB, is crazy. She was doing amazing with it. She went from like a drab brown to a gorgeous like chocolatey rich brown, and she even had some iridescence on her as well. That UVB really brightened her up. She looked gorgeous. And then for the LED, she has a Jungle Dawn. Like I said in my Woma Python video, I have tried every single type of plant light that you can think of. I've tried the cheap ones, the expensive ones, whatever it might be, and I always come back to Jungle Dawns. I am not affiliated with Arcadia whatsoever. I just love Jungle Dawns, and I really do think they are one of the best plant growth lights at the moment. I'm yet to try out like Reptile Systems ones or White Python lights. I would really like to try those because I've heard that they are really good, but at the moment I've been using Jungle Dawns and they are great. So that is the full Bioactive Royal Python enclosure. I think it looks great, and someone will be going in there at some point. You know, it's only been a few months since I lost Miso, and I'm still grieving her. I still feel sad having to look after this enclosure with no snake in it. You know, she was my baby, she was my world. She caused me so much stress with her illnesses, but I miss her so much every single day. And royal pythons truly are amazing animals. But would I have a royal python again? No, probably not. And it's not that I don't recommend them to people and that you shouldn't get them. I think just the traumatic time that I had with Miso over the last year has just put me off them, and I don't think I could ever get another one and not see Miso. Like, it would just upset me too much. So I don't think I will be getting a royal python again, but you know, I might make a couple more videos on Miso herself because she was such an amazing animal. And yeah, that is everything for today, guys. Please make sure you comment down below what your royal python is called, and make sure you like and you subscribe, and I will see you all later. Bye bye.